Morning. Welcome to this video, which I've been asked to make by somebody in my last video. I think it was my last one or second last one. Could I make a video about divine masculine and divine feminine? And whilst I admit I had to go back and do a little bit of Googling on the general perception of divine masculine and feminine, it really hasn't changed since it came into my awareness of an idea of something 25 years ago or more, when it first started to show up on spiritual circuits. Which in those days, of course, there wasn't a lot of YouTube and there wasn't a lot of ease of communication of ideas like there is today. So things tend to catch on a bit easier today because of the ability for things to be shared. But in the interests of ideas are increased by sharing, the idea of divine masculine and feminine is definitely an idea that I'm not really interested to share, to increase. Not because it isn't helpful, because I'm sure that there is a whole audience of people who will watch these sorts of videos and try to relate their own life circumstances to them as some kind of an attempt to make sense of themselves and to justify their emotional, physical, spiritual presence in a place that seems to them to be reality. One of the things that really needs to be understood about divinity is that it has no gender. And I know that that's a base element. We're not talking specifically about the physical gender of a thing here. We're talking about the emotional presence of something, the emotional footprint. And if you wanted to look at that as your karmic path and the unraveling of all that, etc., you could. But spirituality has no masculine nor feminine. There is a singular sense of self on the spiritual frontier that you align to, which is unknown. Right? It's like Jesus says in the Bible, the spirit is like the wind. No man knows where it comes or where it goes. You don't know anything about it. The whole domain of the physical realm is a realm of ignorance. It's a realm of denial. It's a realm of darkness, a realm of illusion, Maya. And to try and put forth some kind of justification for spiritual effort within the idea that you can come to understand something here by the nature of your own acumen, by the nature of your own investigation without spiritual revelation is completely preposterous. It's a great word, preposterous. The spiritual journey is a journey of faith. There has to be, it has to be preceded incrementally in moments or perhaps all at once, as in the case of the dark night of the soul, but it is always preceded by an admission that I know nothing. I have reached the end of all my studies, all my searching, all my inquiry, and I still don't know what I am. Because the only thing that can reveal to you what you are is your own experience of the illumination of your mind, which is, for want of terms to actually try to describe it in any given way, direct union with God. Direct union with God. I could say direct union in God, or in, but I'm sure you get the idea. All of the steps that one might take along the path of spiritual learning all arrive at the empty place, all arrive at the place where I know nothing. It doesn't matter how far afield I travel in my efforts to understand myself and to liberate myself and to comprehend my situation, it always brings me back here, to the here and the now, where the illumination of the mind is not only possible but necessary. Jesus says in A Course in Miracles that awakening has nothing to do with the activation of glands. Right? Glands being, in this regard, the energy centers that people refer to as chakras and alignment points. It is simply a decision to awaken. And until that point, until that I know nothing point is arrived at, that decision has still not yet been made. There is always a yes, but. Yes, but. Surrender is not for the faint-hearted or the weak of will. It is for those who have looked at the world and realized their terminal destination. It's easy when you are desperate, and the mind does exist in a state of desperation in the world. It is a chaotic state from which it is always adjusting from one state of chaos to another state of chaos, running away from one learning opportunity to find again the repeat, the recycling of that learning opportunity in a different form, in a different time, in a different place, but always here and now. And it is very easy in that desperation, in that avoidance of that existential anxiety, to actually fall into the trap of becoming a seeker that has no intention of finding. And it's very easy to want to look up at the stars, for example, as my teacher would have once said, and to, rather than simply marvel and to sit in wonder and enjoyment and connection with the stars, to try to join the dots and make sense of them by seeing figures and animals and things amongst the stars. And then over the span of thousands of years, connect those dots in the sky and those animals and those symbols, man-made symbols, as some kind of esoteric thought system that may have some kind of influence over temporal life. The only thing that has influence over temporal life is death, and death is an illusion, just like temporal life itself. Draw your circle, be still, and know that I am God. That's the place you don't want to go. That's the journey into fear you do not want to take. And everything else everything, no matter how spiritual and wonderful it sounds, no matter how credible and how much phenomena is associated with it, it's still the avoidance of draw your circle, be still, and know that I am one with God. Know that I am God. The purpose of A Course in Miracles is to save you time. It's a very reasonable, a very direct, and a very simple teaching, which is almost always made indirect and complicated by the mind that attempts to understand it. You cannot understand it without a shifting consciousness. You cannot have a shifting consciousness until finally you acquiesce to the notion and the application the notion implies of faith in prayer for a miracle, for the healing of the mind that believes it is actually a body participating in time and space, undergoing the rigors of spiritual metamorphosis in one way or another. Because none of that is true. The illusion is not true in any regard. Forgiveness, which is the keystone of salvation, is not true in any regard, but it is, in some sense, the final illusion that will release you from believing that any illusion, including forgiveness, is necessary for you to be exactly as you are, as you were created. You are a child of God, part of the extension or the creation of God. God being all things, including what you are. God is eternal and changeless and all-encompassing and formless. Translated from Hebrew, the word God, which means I am, becomes in Latin the word spirit. Which somehow has become associated in the West with the ghost of the body. And yet the body has no ghost. The ghost being nothing more than more phenomena, more physical entertainment, appearing as supposedly non-physical or other realmly, other dimensionally. All things are God. God is not masculine, not feminine. God is. Simply is. Any attributes that I would ascribe or attempt to ascribe to God, I would have to carve out or chisel out of the whole in order to do so, and thus again separate myself from God. I am is a state of being. I am is a state of presence, on earth as it is in heaven. To be in the world but not of it is to simply accept one's relationship in the whole as part of the whole. Not to continually question it and look for other ways to accept oneself and to try to balance oneself. As my teacher's teacher once said, there is nothing more unstable than the notion of balance. Think about it. To have to perpetually balance oneself between what and what, if all is whole, if all is one. There is one problem and one solution. The problem is that I think I'm separate from God. The solution is that I'm not. Draw your circle, be still, and know that I am God. Thank you.